Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and tune-in apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Hey, good evening and welcome to your Wednesday evening. I'm Neil Fox and I will be looking after Dan Wootton's show for the next couple of nights. And I can guarantee you a couple of hours of excellent news entertainment tonight with a fabulous panel helping me tackle some of the big stories that are around this week, including whether we should enjoy staycations instead of jetting abroad, how animal shelters are bursting at the seams, how vinyl record sales are in the news again with another record year. Pardon the pun. Oh, and we have some superb guests, including Kelvin MacKenzie and broadcast legend Mike Reid. Plus, in my big opinion, how if you want to live in a better society, then we may need to take a look at how we deal with the humble Christmas tree. All this and much more, but first, we have the news headlines with Ray Addison.
Thanks, Neil. Here's the latest from the GB newsroom. Merseyside police say a 28-year-old man remains in critical condition following the fatal shooting of a woman in the Wirral on Christmas Eve. 26-year-old Elle Edwards was shot while celebrating with family at the Lighthouse Inn. A further 3 men were also injured. A man and a woman have been arrested in connection with that incident. Police say they're trying to find the weapon used in the shooting. 2 men have been arrested on suspicion of murder in connection with the stabbing of a 23-year-old man in a Birmingham nightclub. Semi-professional footballer Cody Fisher was stabbed to death on the dance floor of the Crane nightclub on Boxing Day. Hundreds of people were there at the time. His family say their hearts were broken following his death. West Midlands police say a 22-year-old was arrested in Birmingham city centre last night, whilst a 21-year-old man was arrested in London. Border Force staff and driving examiners staged industrial action today. Members of the PCS union working at multiple UK airports continued their strike over pay, jobs and conditions. Driving examiners began a 5-day walkout, affecting more than 70 testing centres in the east of England and the Midlands. Pope Francis has asked for prayers for his predecessor, former Pope Benedict, saying he's very sick. The Vatican says the 95-year-old had a sudden worsening of health, but is receiving constant medical care. The former head of the Catholic Church became the first pope in 600 years to resign when he stepped down in 2013. And the deadly storm that's been sweeping across North America, killing at least 60 people, is now bringing wet and windy weather here to the UK. The Met Office says the knock-on effect of America's bomb cyclone will be spells of unsettled weather over the next 7 to 10 days. It's issued a yellow alert for heavy rain for much of Scotland on Friday, also warning of flooding and travel disruption. We're on TV, online and on DAB Plus radio. This is the People's Channel, GB News. Back now to Neil Fox.
Hey, good evening. Neil Fox here, looking after Dan Wootton's show for you tonight. Coming up on tonight's show, in my big opinion, I'll be asking, if we all want a better society, does this start with clearing up your own Christmas tree? Don't worry, I'll explain everything shortly. In the big question, we'll be debating whether or not we should be limiting our jet setting and swap it for a staycation destination in the UK to help save the planet. I'll be chatting to Extinction Rebellion spokesman Peter Knapp and media personality Nicola McLean about this. We'll also be chatting to the legend that is Kelvin Mackenzie, asking him to get Kelvin's crystal ball out for his predictions on the stories that might be making big headlines next year in 2023. Plus, we've all heard the expression, "a dog's for life, not just for Christmas." Well, sadly, that's not the case. Once again, figures show that a big rise in the number of animals needing rehoming has seen animal shelters at breaking point. Now, with me throughout the show is a brilliant all-star panel. Tonight we've got journalist and former editor of the Daily Star, Dawn Neeson. We got pub landlord and activist Adam Brooks, and writer and broadcaster Amy Nichol. And as ever, give me your views. I want to hear from you, please, on all the subjects we're talking about and so much more. It's GB Views at gbnews.uk, or you can tweet us at GBNews. Right, let's get on with the show. So, why Christmas trees have got me wound up. It might seem trivial, but this morning I was walking our dog, called Bonzo, and noticed a few Christmas trees rolling down the street. I guess like we see every single year. And I started to feel myself getting just a little bit annoyed. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Christmas trees. And putting ours up is a really big part of Christmas for my family. But for some reason, a lot of people seem to think that once the festive season is over, it's really okay to just throw your tree out in the street and just let it blow around. I mean, someone else can come along and clear it up, right? There was a road cleaner sweeping up near these abandoned trees this morning, and as the rain tipped down on us both, we got talking actually and ended up on the subject of the Christmas trees. It turns out that he and all his colleagues find it all pretty annoying too. Now, most councils I know do have a day when they say they'll come round and they'll pick up your used tree, but until that day, why do some people feel it acceptable to just put it against a wall or chuck it in the gutter or some other random place where it just gets in other people's way? Now, in the grand scheme of things and everything going on right now, this is clearly really trivial. But it does highlight for me a growing problem where some people seem to be very happy to let everyone else sort everything out for them, rather than, of course, doing it themselves. So often it seems that it's everyone else's problem to sort everything out. For as long as I can remember, there's always been a debate going on about how much control the state should have over our lives. And I know this is quite a sweeping statement, but in general, the Conservative Party seems to be all about having less control, normally, over our lives and our businesses, whereas the Labour Party has always advocated a higher level of control and more state intervention in how we live. Now, the last few years, of course, have seen a level of control during the pandemic that went beyond anything any of us could imagine. And we must all make sure we never get back to that again, because it was, quite frankly, a little bit scary. I even saw a great T-shirt for sale recently that said, 1984, please can we make it fiction again? I smiled, but I couldn't agree more. If we all want less state control and meddling in how we live our lives and more freedom to live exactly how we want, then that comes with great responsibility, all right? And if it comes with great responsibility, what we know is that what we have to do is we have to do our bit to help our communities and our wider society to function a little bit more. Now, we know that with food prices soaring, fuel costs at insane levels because of the war in Ukraine and a new winter of discontent, more and more people are needing the help of government and charities to just get by. We have always been the greatest nation in the world at mucking in and helping our fellow citizens out. But more than ever, that sense of community and the bigger society seems to be what is needed right now. And that could start with something as simple and ridiculous as clearing up our own Christmas tree. Right, OK, let's have a chat with our panel about this. And, OK, Dawn Neesmith, it's very nice to have you on. And Adam, welcome along, and Amy as well, looking fabulous today. So please, tell me what you think. Do we need to get a bit more involved and sort our own problems out, or is it up to someone else just to sort everything out for us? What do you think, Dawn?
Every generation, I think, always says this, don't they, about the generations that follow on. Oh, it wasn't like this in my day. You lot have got it easy now. And no disrespect to your age, Neil, because I'm pretty much getting there as well. But the younger generation now, I think, and no disrespect to the lovely youngster on the end of the sofa here with me.
Adam.
No, it's not Adam, definitely not Adam. I think that they do have it easier, Neil, and I don't mean that in a patronising way. I genuinely don't. It's like when poverty these days is designated to be not having the right telly or the right mobile phone, whereas in my grandparents' generation, it was not having literally any food or boots to put on your feet. I'm not exaggerating. That was literally my grandparents' situation. So I think we these days, we rely too much on the government and too much on all the luxuries we have around us. So it does make us more selfish, and I'm including myself in this, because we're so used to having everything now we want on a plate handed to us at the snap of our fingers that we are selfish with it. And you know what I think also that goes with this, Neil, is the politics of envy goes with this as well, doesn't it? It's like, well, why can't I have what they've got? How very dare they have a better car than me? How very dare they have better holidays than me? So I think it does make us a very selfish generation. And you are so right about 1984, because I feel like we've been living in it for the last few years, haven't we? And now suddenly it's like, well, you know, remember the government told us how to walk down the street? You know, during the pandemic, we had footprints on the high street telling us how to walk. Been doing it since I was about 2 years old, sorry. So I think it's this attitude that nothing is my fault anymore. There's always someone else to blame, and we've completely lost our own taking responsibility for our own actions.
However, can I come in?
No, you're too young, shut up.
Okay.
No, please come in, Amy, come on.
Just on the Christmas tree topic, I'm a person that kept a Christmas tree with all the pin needles falling off it in the garden until August, when I finally moved house and put it in the skip, because I didn't know what to do with it. I don't think these people are selfish. They just don't know where to put the Christmas tree.
That just makes you lazy, Amy.
No, honestly, how do you get rid of it? Like, it doesn't fit in the bin. Like, where do you put it? You have to research these things. And, you know, maybe we're just lazy in that regard.
Well, no, I was going to say, look, I think every council, they're normally pretty good at coming down on a certain day, but it's just this, I mean, literally, I know it's only the, 29th today, and maybe this is people heading off for an early bit of winter sunshine and chucking their trees out early, I don't know, but they were just rolling around in the gutter, and you kind of think, well, put them by the bin,
Do you know
maybe,
what I find
but don't
more
just
shocking?
leave them.
I find more shocking in all this is the scant regard for the tradition of the 12th night. Who are all these lunatics throwing out their Christmas tree this early?
Yeah, but as Neil says, some people are going away. But Neil, I think as well, we also can't forget that we pay a lot of sort of council tax.
Oh my God, how much? So much.
And so sort of, I do expect a lot of these things to be done because of the money that I'm having to pay each month, you know. But I sort of leave my wife to do. I'm busy in the pubs this time of year, so taking the Christmas trees down and all that sort of palaver, I leave to my wife. So,
but I don't buy that we're more selfish. If you look at all the stories from this Christmas Day of all the people helping out homeless shelters and feeding people and being very, very generous at the time at a cost of living crisis, I actually think that we're not a selfish nation at all. And I think you drew upon that. You said we've always been one of the greatest nations at mucking in and helping out. And I think that's the key to
I think we are, though, and I think that's true, but I think there's this other side. On one hand, we are very good. We're the best nation in the world for looking after people, charities, helping our neighbours. We have mucked in. That sort of World War II spirit, I think we still have in many respects, and we help people out, which I love. But there's this other side that just goes, yeah, I will help other people out, but yeah, I mean, you wouldn't go and put like an old fridge out on the pavement and just think, I'll chuck that out and let someone sort it out. You'd somehow put it in the car and take it to the tip or find a way of doing it. It's just this one thing about trees, because they all just start rolling down the street and they just make a mess.
Well, like me, you just leave the fridge in the garden until you move house. That's what I did with the tree.
It's just makes you lazy, so your garden's full of trees
it
and
makes
fridges.
me... I'm not good at researching things. And to be fair, the tree did become a bit of an ornament in the garden, and it was quite funny.
I think Dawn's right there, you know. I had some notes here, so, you know, my mum's generation, there's a different work ethic, there's different morals in those generations, you know, and I do think there's a notable difference now between sort of that age group and sort of mine on younger, you know. So again, but I will go back to that point that we pay a lot of council tax, and you know, about people moaning about certain services that they have to do during their jobs. You know, we pay towards that. So I think people need to be a bit more mindful, Neil. But we also do expect to get certain services for our money as well.
It's true. Maybe that's why people do just chuck them out, because they think, I pay for it. But it does make a blooming mess. And I always kind of think, if you can go out and buy it, maybe it's partly down to the people that sell us Christmas trees. They should add another £1 or £2 on it, you know, when you buy it. They're expensive enough anyway. And just say, you know what, on the 12th day of Christmas, we're going to come by and we'll pick them up in a great big van or something and take them all away.
I've actually got a solution, which I found personally myself. On the 12th day of Christmas, just put the tree in the box and in the loft. Get an artificial tree. That avoids all this nonsense.
That's exactly what I've done. I'm Greta Thunberg's worst nightmare. Full on plastic.
Have you gone for... What about you, Adam? You must have real trees, surely, in your pubs?
I've got a couple of real trees at the pubs. At home, though, they are fake, so...
Are they?
Yeah.
I wonder what the percentage is now. I have no idea, by the way. I'm sort of just asking this sort of random person. I wonder what the percentage is of how many people have real as opposed to fake now. We've actually gone fake a couple of years ago as well, I have to be honest. But we do spray around the pine spray in the house, so it actually smells nice, 'cause that's the one thing
we should do a poll, Neil. We should do a GB News poll, real or fake.
I've got to be honest, with everything going on at the moment, Adam, there might be slightly bigger things to do a poll about. You know what I mean? But anyway. Panel, thank you very much indeed for the moment. Dawn and Adam and Amy, we will be back a little bit later on. A few emails coming in, obviously. We're going to be talking staycations in just a moment, so have a think about staycations, where you like in this UK, where's good, where's bad, where's ugly. We always like to know that. GB Views at gbnews.uk, because on the big question, in 2023, should we staycation here in Blighty instead of jetting off to some exotic, sunny location abroad in order to help save the planet? Maybe. Get the kettle on. I will see you in a couple of minutes.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Deebs & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
There's a guy who went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. B, I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
Hey, welcome back to the show. Thanks for joining us. Time now for some of your views. You're getting busy already on email, which is good, and Twitter. From an anonymous viewer, we're talking about citizens of the UK who have a particular mindset. Those that cannot be bothered to take the supermarket trolley back, that discard litter on our streets with the refrain, "I'm giving someone a job." The person who fails to clean up after their dog, or the person who sprays graffiti and claims it to be art. Right, there you go. Thank you very much. Keep them coming in. GB Views at gbnews.uk or at gbnews on Twitter. Marion says, regarding disposal of Christmas trees, it's not necessarily selfishness, just ignorance of what services are available. Yeah, it's definitely, if you want to get rid of your tree and you don't want it to roll down the street, if you just go online to your local council, I'm sure they will tell you what you can do, where you can dispose of it, or maybe when they're going to come round and pick them all up. All right. But anyway, keep them coming in. GB Views at GB News. Now, it's time for this. So Christmas has come and gone, sadly. It's wet and windy outside and the country is bogged down with strikes and rising prices. Woohoo! So it's clearly time to start thinking about next year's summer holiday, right? That'll make us feel better. But where should you go? Now, staycations have been on the rise in the last few years for obvious reasons, but is the lure of guaranteed sun just a little bit too hard to resist? Well, according to the latest research, staycations really are on the rise because here are the top 3 reasons. They offer comfortable and relaxing accommodation, which is nice. They create way less stress than going abroad. Airports now are a bit of a pain in the rear end, we know. And of course, they help support our own economy, which is great, particularly at the moment. Plus, travelling to a UK holiday destination is clearly so much better for the environment than for flying. I worked out that if we flew our family to, say, America, as opposed to getting in the car and going to Devon, it was actually 500 times less my carbon footprint. It really was that much. It's crazy. But it is expensive staying in this country. It really isn't the cheap option. And you may have a 2-week washout. That's the problem. To help discuss this very first world problem, I've got with me Extinction Rebellion spokesperson Pete Knapp and media personality Nicola McLean. Firstly, right, Pete, welcome along. Very nice to have you on the show, and a happy post-Christmas, pre-New Year. Nice to have you along. So what do you think? Obviously, from a climate point of view, if we didn't all jump on aircraft, that will be a good thing, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Apologies if there's a little bit of a lag here. I'm in a B&B on the Isle of Wight at the moment, so I'm actually on a staycation. And it's a real pleasure to be in a part of the UK which I haven't been to since I was a child. We've seen so many interesting things here, and yeah, you're right. Like going to a place like this by train really does reduce the carbon emissions. Generally, train travel is about 70 times less than flying for the carbon emissions.
Okay.
And yeah, frying is really the fastest way to fry the planet.
But probably, as you're finding out now, it's not. It used to be many years ago. I guess it was a cheap option staying in the UK, but that's not necessarily the case anymore, is it? It's actually, sadly, more expensive sometimes to stay in here, to drive down from where I live in London, down to Devon, 250 miles, and stay there, than it would be to get my family on a plane and fly them to the States.
Yeah, the flights really are desperately cheap, and the reason for this is because of fossil fuel subsidies. We spend about £7 billion a year in the UK to try to make aviation cheaper. So yeah, it is artificially cheap. But you know, getting down to the Isle of Wight from London, which is where I started, cost only £35 for a return ticket, and it's in the off season, right? So everything's much cheaper here. The B&B prices were about £60 a night for two people, and that included breakfast for two people. So yeah, going to places that are tourist destinations in the UK in the winter, you tend to get cheaper deals.
Sure. There's actually a great new expression which I hadn't heard before today, which was, we've all heard of staycations. There's now slaycations, which are more and more people taking winter breaks in the UK, which is exactly what you're doing. Let's bring in Nicola. So, Nicola, what do you think? I mean, obviously, the lure of sunshine and guaranteed sunshine is what often drives people to go abroad, as well as really good package deals that make it very, very good value.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, I understand the carbon footprint, and I do my best, and I try and encourage my children. Obviously, we recycle, you know, I understand. But the fact of the matter is, I do want a sunny holiday. I do want to take my children abroad and show them different places. I do think the UK has some amazing places to see. And I think lockdown and COVID really helped us to understand that. You know, I'm from Scotland. My parents are Scottish. You know, Scotland's fantastic. But I don't want to go and freeze. I do not. You know, I'm quite happy to do that for a few days. I don't want to go there for 2 weeks. So in the summer, and you're saying, you know, winter breaks, 100%, but then we've got to take into account schooling and when the kids are at school. You know, to go to Centre Parks, plenty of other resorts, but to go to Centre Parks when the kids are not at school is absolutely extortionate. I can't afford it. You know, many people can't. So then you do look where you can go, where's affordable. And yeah, I do want some sun, and I'm aware that, you know, that sounds selfish, and so be it. We make sacrifices constantly as humans, as mums, as parents, as whatever. And we, you know, obviously, as I say, I'm aware of the carbon footprint, but I'm going to go away and find some sun in the summer, 100%.
Yeah, I guess, you know, with everything we've had, to be fair, in the last year, you know, and the news has been, let's be honest, it's been non-stop heavy news, hasn't it, really? The weather's grotty at the moment. It's got there's storms coming in from America as well that's not going to help. And I guess, you know, post-Christmas, after what's replaced all the Christmas ads, of course, suddenly sunny holiday adverts all on our TV saying jet off and jump in this lovely swimming pool. And I've got to be honest, it doesn't half look appealing right now, doesn't it? So it's a hard one because, look, I've been to Devon when it's been 2 weeks of sun. I've also been there when it rained every day. And although it's lovely, I know what you mean, Nicola. Sometimes you think, if I've got a week off, I just want a week of sun so I know I can chill out. And there lies part of the problem, Pete, don't you think? I guess that over the last 10, 15 years, the cheap airlines have made it so cheap to go away. It's cheaper than getting on a train now.
Yeah, although it's not the airlines that are making it cheap, it's the government subsidies. It's that we really don't pay anywhere near enough tax on aviation fuel. Nothing like the tax that people would pay for petrol or diesel. There's a huge difference in the amount of tax that's paid there. And it's interesting that you mentioned not being selfish, because I think your previous guest talked about not being a selfish nation. And yeah, we're not. And when we start really to think about other people in other countries as well, in terms of flying, it's a really big deal in terms of the injustice of it all. So around 1% of the people in the world cause about 50% of the commercial flight emissions. So that's a huge amount, while about 80% of the world has never set foot on a plane before. So even though, yeah, we do live in a very cold and miserable place sometimes in the winter, it has to be said, and some other places in the world really can be nicer. I guess it's seeing the value, seeing the benefit of spending time with your family in a cottage and playing games and doing things where it's not so important to be on a sunbed in the winter, when we can do that in the summer and in our country during the summer holidays, perhaps.
Yeah, it's interesting looking at some of what consumers liked about the experience of UK holidays, by the way. And Nicola, what do you think about this? OK, firstly, they say there's a little bit of nostalgia because maybe when we were a bit younger, we may have gone on more holidays, depending on how old you are, to the UK. That's one of the main reasons. More than a third of people named fish and chips on the beach, and more than a fifth, 22%, said that building sandcastles was their favourite staycation memory. I guess, look, you can do this abroad as well, but it's funny, those quintessentially British things. We didn't even mention donkey rides there, did we? Thank goodness. But no, look, we can still have a lovely modern holiday in the UK, but I guess you always have to pack the sort of raincoat just in case in the wellies, don't you?
Yeah, you do. I lived in Swansea for a long period of time. It's beautiful. The beaches are stunning. I love that place. I like to go back and visit. I'm not going to go there on a 2-week holiday. I'm just not going to do it. And, you know, I like fish and chips, and I can drive to Brighton and eat fish and chips. But it's, for me, that all I want to do is be there a day. I do not want to be there. My kids would not enjoy going to Brighton on a pebble beach for 2 weeks. They just wouldn't. Maybe I have selfish children. Maybe I'm a very selfish person. Are you never going to get on a plane again and go abroad? Well, you know, I don't know if you have children. I want my children to see the world. I want them to see things that they can't see in this country. I never went abroad as a child. I'm so fortunate that I can do that for my kids, and I will be doing it. And I don't feel bad about it. I genuinely really don't.
Right. I mean, I have got 3 kids. One's, 21, 20 and 16. Oh, no, Pete, OK. No, and I guess... I'm
sure you would go abroad.
No, I have been abroad many times. I do love it. But I have to say, my kids' favourite summer holiday genuinely is, can we go to Devon, please? Because if you're lucky with the weather, you kind of think sometimes, and it is all... I suppose that you have to add in that expression, if the weather's good, it can be the greatest holiday you'll ever had, but it could be a wet washout.
And if it's not, then it's a washout.
Yeah, it's interesting. Pete, you could probably give me some facts on this. It's interesting. In 2021, just so we all know what we're talking about, UK residents took 19.1 million trips overseas, which is 79% less than 2 years earlier. Now, obviously, there was this thing called COVID that got in the way, and I guess it meant that we all decided to stay at home. One thing I noticed, and I know the air quality during lockdown and when the plane stopped flying, it did increase or become much better very quickly, which I was quite staggered at how quickly it had got better. You probably know the facts and figures about that way more than me, Pete.
Yeah, there are some places in the world where that was really pronounced. In India, for example, the air quality there was much, much better when especially coal-fired power stations shut down. But here, in terms of the air quality, my research group at Imperial actually works on the air pollution created from aviation. And if you live around an airport, then as soon as the research comes out, which should be in the next year or two, the house prices around airports, they'll plummet because the air pollution that airplanes create, ultrafine air particulate pollution, is seriously terrible. And around airports, this is a really big health hazard. And it's something which we're learning more about now, but it's something which the airline industry really is trying to sweep under the rug.
Now, one thing I've noticed here, Pete, and Nicola, you might be thinking this too, that if you said to me the words Extinction Rebellion, obviously it's been in the news maybe for all the wrong reasons in the last couple of years and sort of irritating people. If we can discuss things like this, it all seems to be so much better. And hopefully maybe you have slightly different tactics for your organisation next year. Because I always kind of think sitting in a traffic jam at the M25 when someone's glued to the road, that doesn't help air quality either, does it? But maybe this is the way we have to do it. We have to get round tables and discuss stuff. And I suppose somehow educate us all, really, that maybe we don't need to jump on that £29 EasyJet flight to Barcelona because it's cheaper than actually jumping on a train going to London for the weekend.
Yeah, the expense is a really big issue, especially with the cost of living. We all really are trying to reduce our expenditure, and when flights to south of Spain are so desperately cheap, it is very, very tempting. I can totally understand it. But we have to be aware also that about 1 gallon of fuel per second is burnt in an aeroplane. And that is just totally crazy when you think about it like that, right? So, in terms of our carbon emissions and not being a selfish nation, GB News watchers are going to be the most patriotic of all, and thinking about supporting our local businesses in the summer and in the winter really should be our top priority in terms of keeping our economy afloat as well.
Nicola, can I ask, when was the last time you did take a staycation? Probably during lockdown, but where will you be heading off next summer?
So in the summer, I'll definitely go abroad for sure. But I do go, actually, we're going to watch Swansea play on the 29th. So me and my husband and the two boys will go down and watch Swansea play football because we love Swansea, and we'll stay over and we'll have a really nice time. But 2 nights will be more than enough for me when it's, piddling down with rain, and I will look forward to hopping on a plane and going to somewhere hot.
All right. Well, Nicola, thank you very much for joining us. Enjoy that holiday. And Pete, thank you. Enjoy your time in the Isle of Wight. Very nice to talk to you both. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Really appreciate it.
Right. Coming up, journalistic legend Kelvin McKenzie is going to join me to take a look at what we can expect to see in the news in 2023. That and so much more coming up. Please don't go anywhere. We'll be back in 3.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prisons?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed. So I guess they've always been quite woke. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us. We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere. Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, welcome. Nice to have you watching. I'm Neil Fox, looking after Dan Wootton's show tonight. And I asked this question, has there ever been a year that's been so packed full of news? We seem to have gone from one enormous news story to the next without pausing for breath. From war in Ukraine, the economy, 3 prime ministers, the death of the Queen, strikes, a Winter World Cup and Waggate. Yeah, OK, who cares about that one? But it has been an action-packed 12 months. So what will we all be talking about next year? To help us look forward, we are joined by Fleet Street legend and former editor of The Sun, Kelvin Mackenzie, to look at Kelvin's crystal ball. Kelvin, welcome along. There he is. Very nice to speak to you, Kelvin. I hope you're having a nice Christmas, and thanks for joining us tonight. So, if you've got Kelvin's crystal ball out, what will we be talking about next year, do you think? It's been a crazy year so far for this one. Can it get any better or bigger next year?
Well, I'm optimistic about next year. I mean, the amount of bad news. I mean, so I say the good news will be the following. Inflation to fall slowly over the year, to be not quite down to 2%, but it will completely crash, actually, to be honest, next year. Interest rates not to rise from round about where they are now, you know, so people with mortgages, yeah, they're going to have to pay a little more, but not a lot more. And I think the best news might be, I believe that the Ukraine war will come to an end, which will lead to a complete collapse in energy prices, where demand will be non-existent and supply will be massive. So your energy bills will literally disappear. Now, that's an optimistic view. If, of course, you're a socialist, of course, you will be moaning like hell all year about the following: that energy prices are high, but the other thing you'll be talking about will be, of course, the strikes. Now, these strikes have proved one thing and one thing conclusively, that organised labour cannot destroy our country in the way it could have done 20 years ago. The idea that that your railways come to a complete full stop for days upon end, that would have been an absolute commercial disaster for our country. I'm not saying it's not terribly painful. I'm not saying that. But what they can't do is they can't leave us literally, you know, with holes in our shoes, having walked 20 miles to work every day, because people can do what we're doing now, Neil. They can simply, quotes, work from home. Is it as productive? I'm sure it isn't, but it is a substitute. And the other thing it's proved is that organised labour will go to any lengths, including leaving your mother with a shattered hip and having a stroke, lying on the floor for hours on end before an ambulance turns up. When organised labour will do that to your mum and dad or your child or even you, right, you have to say that something has gone seriously wrong with the trade union movement. But look, that's from my political side of the fence. Yeah. I am optimistic about the country that we live in, not least of all because we aren't living in Ukraine. We're not waking up every morning with some huge missile fired from the middle of Russia right into, for instance, today, into a maternity hospital. We do not face those issues. We don't face, you know, for instance, what might be happening in Afghanistan, where you're seeing a queue of people queuing up literally for a loaf of bread. And I think people have completely lost a sense of what is real poverty, real hardship, and real fear against. We are a liberal, successful economy. Sometimes it doesn't look like it, because if you are in the media, if it bleeds, it leads. The truth about the matter is, and I know this, that the reality is that bad news sells. But I think what's happened to mainstream media in a strange way is that it has lost the sense that there's lots of, you can leaven the bread slightly. Right. And that not everybody is a paedophile. Not everybody is into trans. Not everybody's doing everything. Right. They are just ordinary people trying to do their best.
Let me bring in the panel here, if I can, just for a moment, actually, because, I have to say, the expression there, if it bleeds, it leads. I mean, it's a tragic one, but I'm sure it's been used many times. So, Dawn Neeson, a former editor of The Star. So, how do you feel about that? Is that your view? Is that the truth?
I'm always a glass half full person, and the paper I did, I always tried to make sure it was that way as well, because I think when times are hard, what is the point in the media constantly drumming home how miserable it is, how you're all going to die if you step outside your doors, etc., etc. So I'm one of life's natural optimists, and I like Kelvin's optimism for next year. I think, I think we have to believe that things are going to get better. We have to believe that the financial situation will improve. We have to believe there will be an end to the strikes, because otherwise, where do we go with this? Look, the one thing this country does have is a great fighting spirit.
Always.
We've demonstrated it over the decades, and I think now we have to roll up our sleeves, grit our teeth, and get on with making the best of what situation we have. Let's not wallow in it. Let's actually fight and actually make this country great again, because it can be, and we're losing sight of that. And so often the media, GB News accepted, are constantly lecturing us on how the country's a laughing stock and how, it's the worst place in the world to live. Well, no, if it's such a bad place, why do so many migrants try to risk their lives trying to get here? It's not a bad place. We have to start believing in ourselves again.
I agree. And Adam, look, let me bring you, as a pub landlord, right, you must hear it all, OK? So your regulars that come into your pubs, you got two, haven't you? What's their spirit? I know Christmas, everyone's in a happy mood over Christmas because it's a lovely way of escaping, I suppose, the doom and gloom. But in general, are your bunch a set of optimists? Because we are a great nation. We always have been, always will.
Look, we are. We've got, as Dawn says, we've got that fighting spirit. And, I do get pretty annoyed with the media putting us down all the time, but let's not, I wish I was quite as optimistic as Kelvin with next year and business, because I've got a lot of colleagues in my industry. I'm on WhatsApp chats and, groups and such that, I don't think many of them are going to be around sort of by March, April. The main thing for hospitality has been, I've been warning about all year, even before the media were getting hold of it, is the energy prices, and I tweeted today that the gas prices around the world are tumbling at the moment, and I just hope that filters through to some of the quotes that people are getting. I've recently just accepted a contract for my electricity at one of my pubs, and it's still sort of like 3.5, 4 times what I was paying in 2019.
Sure.
So, we're seeing the markets going in the right direction, but the government cannot subsidise business pricing for much longer. If they extend it past April, I'd be amazed. But, we really do need to see electric and gas prices come down at least 40% to make a lot of these businesses, especially in my industry, to make them viable again. We're seeing prices, inflation, we're getting hit with higher beer prices, higher food prices, higher wages. Everything is going against us. So there needs to be some sort of good news on the horizon, and hopefully these gas prices do continue to fall.
Okay.
But, I mean,
let me bring back in Kelvin, if I could, there for a minute, and then go to you, Amy. OK, next year we've got local elections. How do you feel, Kelvin? I mean, does it all depend on whether Rishi and the Tories get a grip of inflation and our prices? If it starts, as you say, levelling out, maybe and even going down, is that give them a chance? Otherwise, are they going to be annihilated?
No, local elections, they will be beyond slaughtered. I mean, I don't know anybody who is I know some Conservative councillors, by the way, but they will all, if they're standing, they will all be ex-councillors. There is going to be the most shocking turfing out of Conservatives. And because it's a bet to nothing, most people aren't involved in local politics. They don't understand it. The turnout is only about, well, actually, it looks as though the turnout next time will be between 25 and 30%. It'll be absolutely minute. It less than half what you normally get, well, almost a third. And so I expect them to get absolutely slaughtered. I do expect the Tories to get slaughtered, actually, in the general election as well, regardless of what happens. Even if inflation went down to naught, the Ukraine war was ended, I don't see Rishi getting elected, to be honest with you. I'm very negative on that.
OK. Amy, feeling optimistic about next year, or are you gritting your teeth?
Well, when it comes to Kelvin's crystal ball, I don't have much faith in it because of his rather imaginative perception of the present. I think Kelvin's ability to lay the strikes at Labour's door is quite incredible, actually. when we think about the reasons we have unions and unionised industries which have some of the best standards, the reason we have minimum wage, the reason half the people here are on holiday at the moment is because of unions. So I think actually the unions are on strike just because of the mismanagement of this Tory government, which has run the country into the ground. And if Kelvin wants to talk about his imaginary hypothetical lady with a shattered hip lying on the floor for 12 hours, that's nothing to do with Labour, that's nothing to do with the unions, that is solely to do with the mismanaged NHS under a Tory government. So I put to Kelvin that poverty is relative. At the moment, we have more children hungry in our schools than ever before, record inequality, and some of the lowest living standards we've had in about 50 years. How is this Labour's problem?
Yeah, go on, Kelvin, give us a final short word if you can answer Amy, please. What do you think?
Well, it's not true about the lowest living standards. I don't know where Amy's obviously been smoking something in the studio before she came on. But we have a fantastic life compared to, I think we're the 6th richest economy in the world, and I expect that to continue next year. And the moment the Ukraine war ends, the sense of optimism throughout the country will be fantastic. So let's keep our fingers crossed that somebody either shoots Putin, or he's defeated, or there's some kind of deal.
Kelvin, a pleasure to have you on. Thank you very much indeed for giving up your evening tonight. And thank you very much indeed to my panel as well. Wish you guys a nice evening. Thank you, Kelvin. Right, coming up next, we'll be talking to the co-founder of a dog rescue charity, Vanessa Wootton, about the news that rising numbers of abandoned dogs has left rescue centres at breaking point. We'll see you in 3.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Dubes & Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Dubes & Kerr.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store? You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of 2 wonderful comedian panelists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Well, we've all heard the expression, a dog is for life and not just for Christmas, but sadly, that is not the case. Record numbers of animal charities and rescue centres are bursting at the seams, trying to cope with the number of pets needing to be rehoused. To help discuss this, we're joined by Vanessa Wootton, co-founder of dog charity Hope Rescue. Hey there, Vanessa, welcome along. Hope you're having a lovely Christmas so far. But it's not all good news, is it? Record numbers, eh?
It is record numbers, and we've got 160 dogs in our care right now. If we look at the numbers of dogs we took in last year, it was 564. This year we've taken in 664 so far, so an increase of almost 20%. So it's a bit bleak at the moment.
I mean, obviously, the cost of living crisis must be a major contributing factor to this, because having a dog myself, they're not cheap, are they? They're not cheap to keep if you want to look after them, and vets bills and everything else.
It's been a perfect storm. We've come out of COVID with more dogs owned than ever before, over 3 million purchased. Lots of those were purchased by first-time owners, less experienced owners. Cost of living crisis has come along, and people, understandably are trying to prioritise their household budgets. Vet bills aren't cheap. It's difficult for owners. So unfortunately, we are seeing more and more dogs both surrendered and also deliberately abandoned right now.
Yeah, and what can be done? I mean, obviously, people could give you as much money in the world, but actually the physical size of your centres and rescue centres is obviously a contributing factor. There just must be a limit to how many you can take in.
Capacity is a major issue for rescues right now. We are trying to encourage members of the public to foster as well, because that does help with capacity. This is my little foster dog, Danny, right now, who I've got with me. But what we can do is, there are other ways that we can help owners to keep their pets in the interim. The Association of Dogs and Cats Homes have got some brilliant advice on their website, signposting people to pet food banks, where people can get help with neutering, help with vet bills, and also a list of ADCH members if they really are struggling and have to make that heartbreaking decision to give up their pet.
Yeah, because for an awful lot of people, lonely people, their dog, and maybe some of the most vulnerable people in our society, their pet, I was going to say their dog, but it might be their cat as well, is actually, their best friend. And it's actually a lifeline for so many people, isn't it? And actually the thought of giving up that pet would be tragic for them.
Especially when times are tough. We all know how good pets are for our mental health and our well-being. And when times are tough, the last thing you want to do is give up your pet. So A lot of the rescue centres now, the focus is very much on what can we do to help owners keep their pets. The last thing we want them is in our shelters. We want to try and keep them together.
Okay, now, what was that website, once again, that you just gave out, if people are struggling a little bit at the moment and they want to do everything they can? You said there is help at hand. What is that website?
It's the Association of Dogs and Cats Homes, so the ADCH. It's got a brilliant list of resources under the pet owners section. So, please do go onto that website if you are struggling. And the rescues on that list will do their very best to try and help you.
OK. Well, look, thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate that. And we'll get that up on our website as well, because I think it's important that people know that actually, even for our little four-legged friends, help may be at hand and someone can help them out. But thanks for being on, and I hope you guys have a great new year as well. Appreciate that. Thank you. We're going to catch up on just a few emails shortly, but thank you very much, Vanessa. We appreciate your time. Coming up in the next hour, we are going to have some fun stuff for you. I'm going to be talking to my panel about their top New Year songs of all time. Yes, we've had Christmas, now it's New Year songs. And here's a strange one, who would have thought it? Vinyl is back in fashion. It really is. Better than that, it's expected to top sales of CDs for the first time since the late 80s. We'll have broadcast legend Mr. Mike Reed on to talk about that. Plus, we'll have the papers hot off the press at 10:30 sharp. And, of course, my fabulous panel of Dawn, Adam and Amy will be discussing them. See you in a few.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late-night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512,
Virgin Media Channel 604,
Freesat Channel 216,
Freeview Channel 236,
and YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio,
with the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Very good to have your company this evening. I'm Neil Fox, looking after Dan Wootton's show for a couple of nights. And if you want to get in touch and share your thoughts on any of our subjects, email us at gbviews@gbnews.uk. Right, coming up, I'll be joined by broadcast legend Mike Reid to discuss why vinyl sales, once thought to be totally dead as a format, is having a huge resurgence. Our panel will share their favourite New Year number ones, and they will reveal their greatest Britons and their union jackasses too. And that could be rather entertaining. All that, but coming up. First, it's time for the latest news with Ray Addison.
Thanks, Neil. It's 10 o'clock. Here's the latest. Merseyside police say a 28-year-old man remains in critical condition following the fatal shooting of a woman in the Wirral on Christmas Eve. 26-year-old Elle Edwards was shot while celebrating with family at the Lighthouse Inn. A further 3 men were also injured. A man and a woman have been arrested in connection with the incident. Police say they're trying to find the weapon that was used in the shooting. 2 men have been arrested on suspicion of murder in connection with the stabbing of a 23-year-old man in a Birmingham nightclub. Semi-professional footballer Cody Fisher was stabbed to death on the dance floor of the Crane nightclub on Boxing Day. Hundreds of people were there at the time. His family say their hearts were broken following his death. West Midlands police say a 22-year-old man was arrested in Birmingham city centre. That was last night, while a 21-year-old man was arrested in London. Border Force staff and driving examiners staged industrial action today. Members of the PCS union working at multiple UK airports continued their strike over pay, jobs and conditions. Driving examiners began a 5-day walkout affecting more than 70 testing centres in the east of England and the Midlands. Pope Francis has asked for prayers for his predecessor, former Pope Benedict, saying he's very sick. The Vatican says the 95-year-old had a sudden worsening of his health, but is receiving constant medical care. The former head of the Catholic Church became the first pope in 600 years to resign when he stepped down in 2013. And the deadly storm that's been sweeping across North America, killing at least 60 people, is now bringing wet and windy weather to the United Kingdom. The Met Office says the knock-on effect of America's bomb cyclone will be spells of unsettled weather over the next 7 to 10 days. It's issued a yellow alert for heavy rain for much of Scotland on Friday, warning of flooding and travel disruption. We're on TV, online and on DAB Plus Radio. This is the People's Channel, GB News. Back now to Neil Fox.
Good evening. Welcome back to the Dan Wootton Show with me, Neil Fox, looking after things for a couple of days. Coming up in the second hour of tonight's sizzling show for you, I'll be chatting about New Year's number one hits with my fabulous panel tonight. I'll be finding out what their favourite number ones are of all time. Hopefully it'll bring back some good old nostalgic memories for you. Also, keeping up with our musical narrative we've set for this evening, vinyl, amazingly, is taking over CD sales for the first time since the 1980s. And it's all due to Taylor Swift. We'll get stuck into that with legendary DJ and former Top of the Pops presenter Mike Reid. At 10:30 as well, we'll have a sneak peek at what headlines are making tomorrow's papers before anyone else. And staying with me until the end of the show, because under contractual obligation, my brilliant all-star panel of journalist and former editor of the Daily Star, Dawn Neeson, business analyst and businessman Adam Brooks, and writer and broadcaster Amy Nickel will, of course, be giving their verdicts on who are our greatest Britons and our uniest jackasses. Now, music has always played an important part of our lives, but at this time of year, with Christmas songs and endless parties, I guess it gets talked about more and more. And here's a strange thing. Vinyl sales are increasing again. And we'll discuss that with Mike Reid later this hour. But firstly, let's find out from our all-star panel whether they have a favourite New Year song. Right, Dawn, Adam and Amy, here we go then. I mean, look, we've obsessed over the years about favourite Christmas songs, but a favourite New Year song. Have you got one? OK, Amy, let's start with you this time.
I don't know New Year's. Auld Lang Syne. That's
Old Lang Syne. Well, that's a lovely one to see out one year and sing it, of course, the next one. And do you link arms and sing it wherever you'll be?
I always do. And yes.
No, you don't. Do you really?
Yeah, what are the words? No one really knows.
Now, actually, before the show, Dawn, you said to me, I've been doing my research, Foxy, on New Year number ones. I know my stuff. Go on, then. Blow me away.
Right, OK, I'm going to go for the one that was number one the year I was born, and it was the Beatles, I Feel Fine, and that was number one for 5 weeks.
Would that be one of your favourite New Year number ones? I mean, I know it's a random subject, New Year number ones, but they are optimistic songs to take us out of Christmas and into the New Year. Would that do for you?
Yeah, no, I think that's what the best ones are those, aren't they? And the Beatles had so many that were number one at the not Christmas songs, but number one at the Christmas period that carried on over to the New Year, and they were feel-good factor. And I just think back, it must have been like, you know, my mum and dad and their first baby and the Christmas and New Year. It must have been really lovely. And I'm married to the world's biggest Beatles fan, so he'd probably kill me if I did say anything else.
Can I just apologise, because I've just realised we do actually have them in our pack.
Well, in your pack, you have got the last 22. OK, what's been number... Because honestly, people in this country, no one cares around the world apart from who makes Christmas number ones. But in this country, we're slightly obsessed with it. And as I counted them down for 12 years, I kind of know a lot of them. But actually, what is number one the week after for New Year's Day is often slightly forgotten, I'll be honest. But, yeah, we've got them all. Starting from I Have a Dream by Westlife in 2000. This year will be Ed Sheeran and Elton John. They did a Christmas song together called Merry Christmas. That will be the New Year song for this year. But what about you, Adam? Obviously, have you got 2 boxes in your pub?
Look, we've got a long list here of 22 years of New Year's number ones, and I find them quite uninspiring, if I'm honest, Neil. If I had to go down and sort of... I mean, 2015, Uptown Funk by Mark Ronson and Bruno Mars, that's a good one.
Stone Cold.
I like that. You know, I do like that. But look, when we go back to sort of, I've got a big New Year's Eve party in my pub at the weekend, you know, DJ and that. And every video I sort of always come back to. I like to film them and watch people dance and then put it out there on Twitter and social media. I like a bit of Come On Eileen is what I like.
Midnight Runners. Yep, you can have that one.
That gets them going.
Draw your attention to 2019, which is something that the viewers often tweet me and say, I am Sweet But Psycho.
OK. And do you know what's really interesting is that for many years, if you look at your list, we ended up having a slightly strange phenomenon in this country, didn't we? That every year it was either a Pop Idol winner, then it was all the X Factor winners. It was almost just like a shoe-in, whoever released the record, which made it a bit boring. Then, of course, people started going, I don't want this anymore. So then we had Rage Against the Machine, a sort of like the anti-Christmas song, which you kind of go, yeah. And then for the last 5 years, we've had Lad Baby. Again, a slightly sort of an anti, not a totally anti-Christmas number one, but just a sort of reaction, I guess, against the big record labels just putting out. But it stopped the really big artists putting out Christmas songs. So that's why this year it was really nice to see Ed Sheeran and Elton John doing one together, I have to say, and having the big stars. Because what's fascinating, I've got kids 21, 20 and 16. And what's amazing is when I look at their playlists on Spotify, how many really old bangers are on there, really old songs that we can all share and love. And I think maybe, although these are the more recent ones, the thing about streaming now is that, and I'm sure you're the same, you know, music is all over the shop. We're all just about good songs now, whether they're old or new. That's what matters. Don't you think, Amy?
Yes, I do.
Good.
I actually quite like... I've just been looking through my serious research, being a serious journalist, you know, and I was actually looking at 1990 into 1991, right? So you had Saviour's Day by Cliff Richard, right? OK, which was knocked off just after New Year, this was, by Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter by Iron Maiden. I mean, that's for contradiction, can you?
A lovely number one and number two there, wasn't it? Played back to back.
Yeah, but again, Neil, this list is really uninspiring. I know I said it before.
Really
it's, you know, I'm struggling to sort of like many of these, to be fair.
Well, that's why I did my research.
We don't have to choose one of these, Adam. It could be anything. You know, the great thing about this is that there are no rules with music. We always know that. No. And I'm sure, actually, viewers, please get involved in this one. GBViews at gbnews.uk. If you've got a favourite New Year song, quite specific here, let us know. It doesn't matter how old you are or young you are. A great song's always a great song. Does your pub have music playing all the time, Adam?
I don't have DJs, really, apart from New Year's Eve, obviously, which is this weekend. But I'm quite well known for my sort of 80s and Motown playlist that I play in the Three Colts, you know. The staff are starting to get a bit bored of it after 9 years, but I do put it on shuffle every now and then and treat them, you know. And but the 80s music is my sort of genre that I like.
Are you an Alexa play Motown kind of guy?
Yeah.
You would get on with my fiancé.
Have you ever, by the way, used the expression, any of the three of you, music's not the same now as it was when I was a kid?
But that's what every generation says.
But do they?
Like, every single generation has gone, oh, it's not like it was
I think 80s was a special decade.
I think you
Neil,
like
to be
the
fair.
music that you enjoyed the most.
I'm just going to keep quiet on this one, because going back to some of the Christmas, New Year number ones when I was a kid, you had the likes of our Rolf Harris' Two Little Boys and Gary Glitter. So I'm just going to stop there, I think.
Yeah, I think we should.
There were other ones, let's be honest, Dawn, as well. We've had plenty of others. We've had Slade, we've had Wizard, we've got lots of Cliffs and so many others in between, for sure. But I know the Christmas number ones are always a slightly special one. But it was almost like the lost number ones, what was number one on New Year's. But as we go into a new year, I guess maybe we want optimistic songs. I mean, it's amazing how they can change our mood. With everything going on at the moment, who would be your most optimistic choice of artist? Come on, Adam. If you had to put something on right now, if you're an 80s man, pick something that's going to make everyone feel happy right now.
To Be Real, Cheryl Lynn. I like that one.
What a great song. Dawn, Beatles?
Put anything on by ABBA, because who doesn't like ABBA?
ABBA is always feel good. And actually, do you know, here's a fact I only heard today. OK, out of all the years that ABBA have been active, this is quite an interesting one. Obviously, the first year was 1974 with Eurovision. That's the first time we'd heard of them. OK, in all those years, from 74 up to 2022, which year has been their best year in album sales?
Oh.
When do they sell more albums?
Dan Wootton would know. He loves ABBA.
Yeah, well, I'll put you out of your misery. Amazingly, this year, in 2022, ABBA have sold more albums than any year before, which is pretty unbelievable, I have to be honest.
Yeah, I can believe
anyway.
But how well is that Mamma Mia show that they've got going? You know, the live virtual reality show. I mean, that's selling out every night, so...
It is incredible. They've got that, and now they've got ABBA Voyage, the sort of Avatar or Avatar show now.
That was one, that's one.
It's incredible. Anyway, look, for the moment, panel, thank you, Dawn, thank you, Adam, thank you, Amy. We will be back. Let's just have a look at some of your emails, by the way, coming in on all various subjects we've been talking about tonight. Staycations, dogs, throwing away your Christmas trees. Could you possibly tell me from Steve where I can staycation when all of our hotels are being turned over to house migrants? Carol says, no to a staycation. You can get 2 weeks abroad for what you get charged here. Interesting. Howard's got his knickers in a twist. Sorry, Howard, about this one. He says it's not called a staycation, Neil. It's a holiday, OK? I hate Americanisms in our language like playdate, staycation and other gibberish like that. Although, Howard, I kind of agree with you. The one thing we do know about staycation, a holiday could be anywhere, but a staycation, we know it means you're staying in this country. So it kind of says what it does on the tin. Anyway, so many emails coming in. Lots about dogs. Alan says, why are we still rescuing dogs from abroad and we cannot find homes for the ones we already have, which is really good. So please just keep more coming in. Oh, one other one from, it looks like Hebe, just to say my 88-year-old auntie lives in a small town in the Derbyshire Dales and her neighbours bring her around Sunday lunch every week and take all the rubbish out for her. The community spirit has definitely not died in Britain. And we were talking about getting rid of, how do you get rid of your Christmas trees at the beginning of the show. And Carl in Bradford says a local reservoir has a great idea for disused Christmas trees. You take them there and they'll use them to make a fence. They've been doing it for years. All good stuff. OK, it's gbviews at gbnews.uk, or if you're into Twitter, it's at gbnews. Lovely. Thank you very much indeed for taking the trouble. Well, coming up, vinyl is back, amazingly. Yes, it is. And it's all because of Taylor Swift. We'll dig into that with legendary DJ Mike Reed. And we've got all the papers for you at 10:30 with a full reaction from my wonderful panel. Please do not go anywhere. We'll be back in 3.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me! And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. B, I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
Welcome back then. So, when I was a kid, I saved up my pocket money and I bought my favourite songs as 7-inch singles. You may well have done the same. Then, of course, we moved on to those newfangled things called cassettes, and then we went to CDs. And it seems that the classic vinyl album was dead. Then, of course, we went digital and could pretty much only download tracks. And nowadays, you can't even download tracks. We can only stream our favourite songs on the streaming platforms. But incredibly, vinyl has been making a slow comeback. And this year, sales of vinyl albums will be actually higher than that spent on CDs this year. And it's not just an older audience replacing all their old scratchy Floyd and Queen and Zepp albums, but it's a new younger audience out buying stuff like Taylor Swift and Harry Styles on vinyl. Right, to discuss why this may be happening, legendary radio broadcaster and co-author for many years of the Guinness Book of British Hit Singles, Mike Reid, National Radio 1. Mike, how are you? Sorry, it's just that jingle that's stuck in our head. Happy Christmas, lovely to see you again. Are you well?
Yeah, I am. Good to see you working. Brilliant. Fantastic.
I'd like to say the same about you. Now, please, do me one. I know you've got a guitar in the back there. You're not going to be singing us any songs in the next 5 minutes, are you?
You're safe.
Thank you. All right. So, look, here is this incredible phenomenon, and I'm sure you're as surprised as I am that vinyl, which we kind of loved, it had that warm, lovely feeling to it. Then, of course, it went to cassettes and CDs. And once we started going digital, we thought we may never see it again. So all those old vinyl albums that we had, I know you're obsessed and you have an incredible collection, but they were there rarely to be played in a way. But now it's made such a comeback. And the biggest seller this year was Taylor Swift, 80,000 vinyl copies of her new album, Midnight, which is incredible. You know, Liam Gallagher's been selling an awful lot. Harry Styles has been selling a huge amount as well, all on vinyl. Why do you think it is?
Well, CDs kicked in circa 83, 84. I did the very first TV ad for Philips. And it was the thing that CD would last forever. That laser technology meant that CDs would last forever, even when we were all ancient, Foxy. It seems that laser technology can make us look young, and CDs have collapsed. I think they peaked around 2000. Virtually dead now. Virtually dead. I mean, people don't buy CDs anymore. Artists don't like streaming because they don't make any money out of it, and nor do the songwriters. So streaming, bit of a no-no for artists. CDs are dead. Vinyl has always had that great quality, has a great range. CDs were always very middly and very squashy, and you didn't get that excitement out of them that you do with vinyl. You can hear that whole range on vinyl, and it really, really hits you.
Of course. So one thing also that I was discussing with a friend of mine last night, the thing about an album that people of a certain age, when we all used to get everything on an album, was it wasn't just the songs, it was the order they were put in. So, of course, if you had to lift that needle off and put it on, it was like an experience. So, you know, you sat down to enjoy an album. And then, of course, it went track 1, track 2, it went through an album in the order in which an artist had decided that those songs should be played. So the whole thing was an experience, which, of course, never really happens when we went digital. It's just song after song after song. Why do you think maybe now, because it's not older people buying the Taylor Swift album, it's clearly younger people, which means they've got to get hold of a record player as well, and they're not cheap. So why do you think it is? What is it that's helping them rediscover the sound and the feel and the experience maybe of vinyl?
Well, I think it is the demise of CDs, certainly. The fact that artists and songwriters don't like streaming. And I think having a piece of vinyl, it makes you seem pretty pro. It's the real thing. It's the real deal. I mean, you remember this, that, you know, if a band wanted a single out, they had to get a record deal. Somebody had to believe in them. Somebody had to pay for them, spend money on them, because you couldn't just press your own vinyl. And then you could with CDs, and you can with stream, you could do your own thing. But if you got a piece of vinyl, it kind of meant that you were serious about it, that you were pro. And of course, now people can. I mean, you can, for about £10 a copy, have your own pressed. It costs more if you want fancy sleeves and what have you. And there's a bit of a waiting list as well. I mean, they say 8 weeks, probably more, not too many vinyl plants. But you can get copies for 10 and then sell them on to your fans at 15, 20. And I think the fans like to go away from a concert with something. They don't want to go away and stream. They want to go away with something. I think a piece of vinyl is good. And of course, the more you order, the cheaper it gets. You can get down to, £4 a copy and then sell them on to your fans.
Yeah, the other thing about an album that I remember studying as a kid, and I think anyone you speak to about it, was while the record was playing, of course, you had the sleeve and the inner sleeve to start looking at who produced it. It might have the lyrics on it. It might have all kinds of other information, the band's management details, if you wanted to hassle them. And there was something also, which we're seeing on the screen at the moment, that idea of going into a record shop and just, in a way, just going through records and just having a look, browsing, which, of course, you can't do so much nowadays. I mean, your collection must be enormous,
right.
Mike.
I'd often pick something up that I didn't know I wanted. I'd look at the sleeve and I think, oh, you probably do the same. That looks interesting. What's that? That looks, and so-and-so produced it. And there are songs on my sensor. Oh, this might be worth having. And sometimes you take a punt on something you didn't go in for. You go out with 2 or 3 albums that you didn't know you wanted.
Yeah, it's that idea of sort of music discovery that's actually quite hard to do now, because a lot of the streaming platforms, in a way, just play you more of what they know you like already. But this is a chance maybe to discover stuff you've never heard of before. But lovely. What's your favourite album of all time? Just as a matter of fact, I'm going to ask the panel as well in a minute. Favourite album or greatest album of all time?
So many. The first Yes album, Piper at the Gates of Dawn, Revolver. So many good albums, really, so many. Probably, I don't know. You talked about the New Year ones just now. One of my favourite New Year tracks was last year. You remember that Hazel Dean did a great version of ABBA's Happy New Year last year. Really, really good. If I'd been on your panel just now, that's what I would have answered.
My Reid, a pleasure as always, and I wish you a very happy new year. You can play Hazel Dean to your heart's content. There you go. And we'll speak very soon. Have a lovely evening. Getting a few emails in. Mark says the ultimate New Year's Eve song for me is I Get Knocked Down by Chumbawamba. What a brilliant record. Love that one. Jeremy, my ultimate New Year's song is Right Back Where We Started From by Maxine Nightingale. Matthew says my New Year's Eve jam is New York, New York from the big man Frank Sinatra. David, favourite New Year song, Happy New Year by ABBA. So many great ones. Thank you very much indeed. It's GB Views at gbnews.uk. Now, just before we get to the papers, let's see what you are thinking. Can we have a quick chat with the panel? Or is that... Yeah, panel, please. I was just going to say, favourite album of all time, if we're talking album sales. Come on. What's in... Have you still got any album, Dawn? And... Yeah, Dawn.
Blimey, I'm married to someone who's got more albums, vinyl, than HMV. So, yeah, we've got loads. He loves his vinyl. Coloured vinyl at the moment, getting a bit weird. But my favourite album, going back to my childhood, period that I really enjoyed, and it has to be Madness, One Step Beyond.
Fantastic. Adam, what about you?
I don't think me and my wife like a bit of Simply Red. Greatest hits, Simply Red's greatest hits.
Wrong, by the way.
That's a bit of a cop-out, greatest hits. No, but, OK.
But, easy listening. It's always a good listen, old Simply Red, and we've been to a few of the concerts over the years, so, we're big fans.
Fantastic. And Amy, how about you?
My favourite albums are anything by the band Everything, because they're fantastic.
By the band Everything,
Yeah.
Wow, OK. What's their best album? I really don't know.
I think it's Fever Dream, although that's a controversial choice. But this year, we actually got to take our son, who's 8, to see them for the first time, but he wasn't quite old enough, so they let us go side of stage. So my son's first gig this year was watching Everything for the summer.
Wow, there are a lot of people watching now will be using that excuse every time they go to a gig from now on. I like that. All right, nice one. Thank you very much indeed. Coming up, we've got all the papers at 10:30 with full panel reaction. Plus, my superstar panel give their greatest Britain and their Union Jackass nominations. Should be fun. We will see you in 3.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me! And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Right then, it is 10:30, which means it's time for the papers. Tomorrow morning's newspapers hot off the press. Right, let's have a look at what we got today. On the front page of the Thames, Labour vow to combat antisocial behaviour. Also on the front page of The Guardian, dementia patients' families warn of horrific crisis in care homes. The Telegraph, extremist groups funded by taxpayer, not what any of us want to hear. Right, on the Mail, have the Tories given up on cutting tax forever? Crikey. Right, the Mirror, 1,000 new heart kits to save lives. We've also got the Daily Express, Rishi's pledge to make Britain's streets safer. On the Sun, sneaky Nando's, £30 million gift tokens paid to civil servants. Government treats staff to beat the wage freeze. And we've also got the Times. Right, we're back to the Times. There we are. Right, let's have a look then. Let's go. OK, the Times is in my hand, and we're just going to chat about their front page, actually, with a panel now. So Labour have vowed to combat antisocial behaviour. We've heard of an awful lot of horrific stories in the news over the Christmas period. Dawn, what's your take on it?
Well, this is Labour being more Conservative than the Conservative Party at the moment, isn't it? Keir Starmer has finally got off the fence. I mean, it's only taken God knows how many years. Finally got off the fence and is actually having an opinion and coming out with statements that you really hoped Rishi Sunak would be coming out with. So this is, I mean, who originally said it was Tony Blair, you know. We are the party that's tough on crime, tough on the causes of crime, and now we have Keir Starmer vowing to go back to that. And I think we had some horrific crime figures out earlier this week, didn't we?
Yeah.
Where they're just not being solved. You know, if you think something a bit wrong, they'll turn up mob hand on your door. But if you report a crime, they won't bother. So, I mean, it's like, this is what we want to hear. We want coppers who go out there and nick villains.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And this is what, obviously, all of us would like, regardless, I guess, of who you'd normally vote for. It does seem so strange now that this is coming from Labour, when normally this would have always been the kind of tone that the Tories would
it's a shame that he doesn't call out his Labour mayor, Sadiq Khan, you know, for the crime rates, and they've just spiralled out of control now.
Knife crime in London.
Knife crime. You know, I've got 3 kids, and my little boy's 13 now. I'm so worried about him growing up. Sure. You know, with what's going on. So it's great to hear this. I mean, I think we're pretty certain that Labour will be in next, but for me, does he mean it? Is it just words, or is there going to be sort of a plan to clean up this country?
It's just words at the moment, but it's curious timing, isn't it, Neil? The fact that we've had two young people losing their lives in nightclubs over the last week. With knife and gun crime, and thoughts to the families and the friends of those two. But it's like it's curious timing that Keir Starmer comes out. It's now tough on crime, tough on criminals.
No, I think when you look into the story a little bit more, though, the thing that differentiates Labour from the Tories in this is that Labour vow to go for a preventative method, and I guess all the things that you're talking about and the horrors that we've seen. Possibly what happens when you cut 20,000 police on the ground over the last 10 years.
Let's hope it's
don't
not
replace them.
Yeah.
Closing youth clubs and other.
Yeah, but you've closing youth clubs. We go back to that old one. That doesn't make a teenager pick up a knife and go and put it in someone.
It contributes in a massive way. Things like that to distance yourself from having any community.
But I think we're deluded to think, you know, youth clubs are going to stop.
We definitely need... Look, prevention's great. We need a cure as well. Obviously, the whole thing... It's interesting looking at the front page of The Express because, obviously, the Prime Minister, Rishi's pledge to make Britain's streets safer. I mean, we want to hear this at the moment, and it's interesting, Dawn, you mentioned that, I suppose for the last 3 years, to a certain extent, Labour have actually really had to say nothing apart from, aren't the Tories making a big cock-up of everything? I mean, they actually haven't had to have any policies.
No.
Right now, maybe it's because they kind of go, Rishi slightly looks like he's calmed things down, looks like he might be saying a few of the right things. Maybe it's now time to actually come out and go, this is actually what we believe in.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? The opposition party, it's an easy job, because all we've got to do is sit there and go, no, we'd have done it better than that, mate. That's all you've got to do, and that's pretty much all Keir Starmer has done. But now...
That's all he can do at the moment.
Pardon?
That's all he can do at the moment.
Well, no, he could...
he can have opinions, he can have policies.
But I suppose the thing is...
We don't know what they are, or we do now.
I suppose what you want to do is keep your hand, you know, under wraps, don't you? You know, if you're playing poker, you don't want to put it out on the table too early, and I suppose he doesn't need to at the moment, does he? Because to a certain extent, watching the government implode, you can as the opposition. Although it's interesting, this is what we need to hear now. Maybe this is a new year year.
also needs to be put on the police as
right?
the police, Neil. You know, less policing Twitter and more policing the streets.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, less.
How can you police the streets when there are hardly any police and you're not training them correctly?
There's enough police to turn up on a woman's doorstep when she questions what a woman is. They turned up, 4 police officers turned up on her doorstep to question her thought process. I mean, come on.
Let's reverse the woke policing and the chiefs of this country and get back to
That's your priority.
and let's get back to basics and let's see some police on the
Should go nick
streets.
some crooks, that sort of thing.
Well, we do want some old-fashioned policing. I know you were talking about earlier on about, you know, seeing more bobbies on the beat that could actually go up and talk to people and sort of go, no. Sometimes young people need this, and they used to have it, probably, you know, when I was growing up.
I still remember when I was growing up as well, probably roughly similar. I still remember our local bobby on the beat was called PC Harding. I still remember his name.
Yeah.
He would come and talk to us in the school.
Well, but then with someone like that, did you respect them or were you afraid of them?
No,
Both.
really
No, but
That's the key. And
No,
I
but
think
let's go back to police back in the day. Were all 6 foot. They were fit, and no disrespect to some of the police that are out there now.
They're not.
The standards have fallen, and anyone can become. No, because
be inclusive.
No, but because there used to be certain criteria. I've said this before on this programme. I go to Spain, and their police terrify me. I don't do anything wrong, but I think, sod that, you know, I better not do anything wrong today.
Why? Because they look.
Because
and
you
they've got
know,
guns as well.
you know they mean business. You know if there was a problem, they will react in the right way. They won't be, you know, they won't be softly
But equally,
like our police.
you do need to have faith and trust in the police for them to be effective.
Correct. You do.
I don't actually believe in this whole
But
ruling by the
do you think
toughest
some of these
measures.
gangs on London streets look at the police and are intimidated in any way or respect them? No, of course
I think there are
they
so
don't.
many rules and regulations about arresting people now that I think it's almost more of a pain to do so.
Yeah, what we do need to make clear is an awful lot of very hard-working police
Oh, my goodness,
and women
absolutely.
on the front line who do an incredible job, and they go towards danger where we run away from it, but they are bogged down by rules and regulations and paperwork.
Agreed.
Their life
And
is made
management
harder.
above that don't know what they're doing.
Can I just point out, if we're talking about Keir Starmer, for example, taking the Tory line, here's another one that I guess you know, Tory voters wouldn't want to hear. Have Tories given up on cutting tax? They were always the party, of course, that was meant to have lower taxes, and in the last, gosh, my God, this year we've seen them spiralling out of control.
Yeah.
So have the Tories given up on cutting tax as the Chancellor scraps a major review of taxation?
And what we
do you
need
think?
to remember with this is that we have never paid more in to get less out. This is the worst
The main thing is
ever been for how public services.
There's no way we can grow our way out of this impending, you know, recession. The CEBR even said, you know, our autumn budget will put us way behind our European competitors. We're taxing far too much. There's no way we're going to grow our way out of this.
But if you paid a high tax rate, but you got fantastic public services, you knew when you called the police they were going to be there, when an ambulance, your children were going to have the best education, you wouldn't mind, surely.
But there's no stimulus now. I fear for the next 2 years.
We're starting from a huge negative, aren't we? I mean, who'd have thought all that money we spunked up the wall during the COVID pandemic? We've got to pay it back somewhere. It's got to come from somewhere.
Well, exactly. Look, you know, we've obviously got ourselves into unbelievable debt by locking everyone down and paying everyone to be at home. And I guess I can understand on one side, there are people here going, my money is worth way less than it was a year ago because of inflation.
You're forgetting a big factor.
So, yeah, which is a huge factor in that. Then, of course, there haven't been the pay rises. There's been... So you kind of go, gosh, there are people much worse off now than they were. So you can understand why people are frustrated. Striking, of course, is that the action. Then people have to go, it's obviously not always the right way. But there clearly needs to be debate. And, of course, you can understand people going, if a government can, in a way, just create all this money for COVID and everything else that went on, can't we just have a bit now to pay for some extra money for the nurses?
Why can't we wrap it up over 50, 60, 70 years like we did war debts? That was something, again, I've said on this programme before. You know, let's give ourselves a chance and our future a chance rather than, you know, we've got a couple of really hard years ahead. And that's from someone that's on the ground in business, you know, and there is a lot of worry about.
And for young people, of course, you know, I can understand, you know, my kids, they talk about it. It's hard because in a way, what are they going to be lumbered with? But I suppose the generation, for me, I'm 61, we had that debt from the Second World War.
Yeah.
We only finished paying off, I think, in 2003.
Yeah.
I mean, does anyone ever think long-term in politics now? Or do they only think a couple of years ahead or to tomorrow's headline? It seems that people need to be looking a little bit longer term on so many of these
You're a
things.
Conservative Prime Minister. It's about 3 weeks, isn't it?
Let's have a quick look at Sneaky Nando's, can we? Front page of one of the red tops, The Sun. These gift tokens paid to civil servants. Government treats staff to beat the wage freeze. Does this taste a weird chickeny taste in your mouth?
I just... civil servants have been handed 30 million in gift cards to enjoy in shops and restaurants.
And there's still loads of them at home.
One-liner, what do you think, Dawn? Dreadful?
I just think... hold on, when we talk about wasting money, I mean, it's a prime example of it, isn't it?
Can I put this in... No, actually, I'm not going to, because I don't want to stoke the feel of hating on civil servants.
No,
There's an
exactly.
obsession in this country of just going for civil servants, and it baffles me.
But so many of them have not even returned to the office yet.
See, there you go with the Peloton line. Oh, they're all on their Pelotons watching telly.
You know, everyone else has got back to work. They need to get back to work.
And I think that's probably quite fair. I mean, I do think that, you know, we do need to get back to work, but it's very true what was said earlier on, that Kelvin McKenzie said that actually when you do have crippling strikes now, of course, the one thing COVID has taught us is that maybe we can work from home sometimes, maybe not always.
But that also hurts a lot of industries like my own, hospitality. The strikes and this working from home culture has really decimated city hospitality businesses. I've got friends that are in the business, you know, they needed a busy December to survive. They haven't got it.
Sure.
So...
Well, look, we will come back, panel. Thank you very much indeed. Time for another break. But when we do get back, my very hard-working panel will be revealing their Great Britons and their union jackasses. Could be fun. See you soon.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here. You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us. We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm looking forward to this. It's time to reveal today's Greatest Briton and Union Jackass too. So let's see who my panel have nominated this evening. Let's start with you, Adam, if we may. Who have you picked for Greatest Briton and why?
Right, it's an honorary Greatest Briton. It's Elon Musk for continuing to drop the truth on how Twitter suppressed and hid the truth during the US elections and during the COVID era.
You think he's doing a good job?
I think he's doing a very good... Well, he's certainly getting a lot out in the open, and it feels like we're getting the truth.
He's a bit weird, though.
He's a bit weird, but he's quirky.
He definitely is. But quirky, I think, is a good word rather than weird. I mean, he's obviously hyper intelligent.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff he comes out with, I think, is very amusing. I have to be honest.
Yeah, I
really
hope he lends me a few quid as well.
Exactly.
For this.
Creep.
So yeah, obviously Dan's show's moved now. These can be honorary Britons, which are good.
Yeah.
So obviously we've got Elon Musk. Amy, who would you nominate?
Well, certainly not Elon Musk. I'm nominating a honorary Greatest Briton, Greta Thunberg, for her absolute winning of the internet today. She was approached by Andrew Tate, renowned feminist, who got in touch to tell her that he's got all these cars and stuff and what's she going to do about it. And she replied, yes, please do enlighten me. Email me at smallbeepenergy@getalife.com.
Yeah. Well, actually, we don't have to beep it out. Small dick energy.
What? Can you say that?
Of course. No, because I think it's funny because I think we think of little sweet Greta Thunberg and I think she actually, I think she's got a very dry sense of humour, and I think she showed a very mature sense of humour this one. Yeah, come on, enlighten me, because here he was, this guy taunting her, basically. Look at my big car collection.
He is vile.
Yeah, he was taunting her. It was a very good reply. So she is your greatest honorary Briton tonight,
yes,
is she? And Dawn, how about you?
I'm going to be even more creepy than you were. It takes some doing. I'm going to actually nominate Dan Wootton and the GB News team behind this show because I think they've done, present company included, by the way, I think they've done a cracking job all year. They've got very good ratings and they all work very, very hard. So Dan and the team.
Special mention to David and Dan Sperling.
Well, exactly. I was going to say, you know, as most of the time I'm a viewer of the programme, so it's really lovely to be able to sit in. But I think, look, the one thing that GB News does very well, which no one ever seems to, is actually have debate with people who are on all sides of the political persuasion.
Exactly.
Sit down, have a cup of tea and a drink. We can talk about stuff, get it out in the open, and sometimes you learn stuff, right?
And we do actually have a laugh when we leave the studio. Unbelievably.
Yeah, well, it just shows
we have a
that
great
people
time.
can actually debate things sensibly.
We really hate one another. I smack her about when we go outside, to be honest with you. She hits me back just as hard.
You don't want to see that at the Christmas party.
Well, this could be. I think this could be interesting. Let's move on then to Union Jackass and why. So once again, Adam.
Right, my union jackass is Jeremy Hunt, the Chancellor. We all knew his anti-growth budget was set us back as a country, and now the CEBR have all but confirmed it. You know, it's going to put us back and behind our European neighbours, and it has made me quite pessimistic about the future under his rule.
So maybe not quite the Conservative Chancellor of the Exchequer you were imagining.
He's definitely not someone that I would have picked as Chancellor, no.
OK. Amy?
It's who I mentioned earlier, actually. I called him a feminist with my tongue firmly in my cheek because it's Andrew Tate.
We gather.
He provides me with an example of everything a man should not be, and if he says it, I suggest you do the complete opposite, and that's the advice I give my son. He's vile.
So you're not a fan then, I think?
I'm certainly not a fan.
OK. I mean, I have to say, look, I think what he said to... Sometimes I think these people, a little bit like Clarkson last week, shoot themselves in the foot.
Slightly. I think he really shot himself in the foot when he said he wants to move to Romania so he can easily sexually assault women.
Did he say that?
Yes, he did.
OK, well, I mean, that is just ludicrous, isn't it? Why would someone say that?
Sorry to throw you that curveball, but he is vile.
It's OK. And that's why, actually, Greta Thunberg's reply to him was actually funny, clever, witty and short and concise. How about you, Dawn?
I still don't know who he is. I'm going to have to look him up now, aren't I?
He is new levels of awful, and a lot of young boys are taking his advice.
He's a big social media star.
He was on here last week.
He was on here, he's been on other channels, and he shouldn't be.
I'm so behind the times. But my nomination is someone I'm also a bit vague about who they are. It's H from Step.
Yeah. Okay.
Look, who trended... it's not my generation, love. He trended on Twitter for... And I was looking what he was trending for and found that he blocked me. I don't even know who he is.
Has he blocked you?
You know Steps, the band?
Yeah. I've heard of them, but it's not my thing.
OK, no, fair enough.
So he's blocked me, despite me only being vaguely aware of who he is. But evidently, he seems to have just blocked...
He's blocked 300,000 people, apparently.
Yeah. Most of them were women for talking about being what a woman is. And this is a bloke who paid 2 women to have babies on his behalf. So, yeah.
So H has blocked you.
Adam,
He's blocked me as well, to be fair. I've never interacted with him, but obviously I've spoke about women not having penises, so obviously I've shown up on his block
I'm not
list somehow.
There was you haven't been blocked by him, so badge of honour, well done. No, I was going to say, look.
So do you think women have penises?
I think some women, yes. I don't think women
no. Okay, let's not go there.
Can I say, let's not start this one right now. It's late, we're going to be finishing soon. I was just thinking, look, there was the cynic in me thinking, has H from Steps got a new record coming out? Is that the record why he's doing something slightly contentious? But anyway, no, he hasn't got one coming out. It's just maybe because
he just
wanted to block you.
I think what happened was he paid a company to make sure that certain accounts couldn't see his content, and they just got very carried away. I think if he knew you, Dawn, he would unblock you immediately.
Of course, yeah.
I think he would keep you blocked.
Yeah, he'd keep me blocked all day long.
I'm just not interested in his content.
Well, I'm sure you're going to slightly regret saying something you said, and I'm just going to pick you up on it, just so you can actually potentially apologise. Because when you said, you should never, ever do anything that man says, or he shouldn't be allowed on any programme. The thing is, if you ban people and cancel people, then you just add fuel to the fire.
You don't platform certain people and certain views. That you don't.
But in a way, that's
cancel
exactly
culture.
What people are always saying.
And that's why these people become so popular.
Oh, well, why don't we just put, sex offenders and, all different types of people?
Yeah, but he's not a sex offender.
He's saying that. It's just someone that has an opinion.
He's a rape apologist.
Right.
Anyway, that's a nice way to end the show.
And that was so hang on, so I have to now pick, of course, who I think out of your lovely suggestions there. So I would actually say... No. I would actually agree, because of what I said, that I'm going to pick out the GB News team, the whole team. Yay. And I say that not being a sort of an arse-licky way, just because I think they do a great job about having debate. Exactly what we're doing now, which is surely what people are doing at home. They're doing it in your pubs, and they're doing them on the streets. OK, that's what we need.
It's the People's Channel. Remember that.
No, it is the People's Channel, and we want debate, left, right, centre, wherever. That's what it's all about, surely. And then I'd say for Union Jackass, I've got to say, I did have to go Jeremy Hunt. I mean, most people, the rhyming slang is unfortunate, of course. No, I know, and I'm not going there, Dawn, so do not worry. But I think most people have been disappointed.
I think Jeremy Hunt has lost the Conservatives a hell of a lot of votes, and he was a terrible choice as Chancellor.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see how it pans out over the next few months. Let's hope for some good news. But Dawn, thank you. Adam, thank you. Amy, thank you very, very, very much indeed. Right then, thank you very much indeed. So, look, I've completely cocked here, but anyway, thank you very much for being on tonight. And I would say thank you very much indeed for watching, for all your views. Keep them coming in. I will be back tomorrow and I can reread them. It's GB Views at GB News. Headliners is coming up next, and I wish you a very nice Wednesday night. Goodbye, thank you.
Hello there, I'm Claire Nazir. Lively night into Thursday morning with rain, showers, some clearer skies, strong winds and also some hill snow. Now, all courtesy of an area of low pressure. To the south of that, that's where we've seen the coastal gales overnight as that weather front stalls across the far north of Scotland, and rain will return to the northwest. So overnight, a lot of wet weather around. A batch of showers will merge to form a longer spell of wet weather across northern England, Wales, the West Country pushing ever eastwards as more rain returns to the central belt, western parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland through the early hours of the morning. A cold start in the north, relatively mild further south, but showers never too far away. However, through the morning there will be some sunshine around central and eastern areas of England. Further showers will clear northern England, and this mass of showery rain will move from Northern Ireland, western Scotland towards the east. Now, across England and Wales, the most frequent bursts will be down towards the southwest, where we'll see the odd heavier one, but the winds won't be as strong as Wednesday. Even so, these showers could be heavy, some sunshine in between. Temperatures not as high either. Now, through Thursday evening, we'll see a lot of those showers ease. Could even see the risk of some ice across the far northeast of Scotland as rain returns to Northern Ireland. This rain is heavy. In fact, the Met Office has issued a warning for heavy rain across central and southern parts of Scotland into Friday. Again, the risk of some snow over the higher ground as thickening cloud on Friday brings further spells of wet weather towards Wales, the West Country, as the winds pick up some strength. So let's have a look at that rain as it tracks across England and Wales. More rain across Scotland and Northern Ireland, clearing Northern Ireland later on in the day, feeling cold in that wind under all that cloud. And here's your outlook into the New Year weekend. We lose the strength of the wind, we gain some dry skies, but always the chance of some rain in the southeast on Sunday.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here. You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us. We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit.